Good afternoon, everyone. The parsha we read that they should tell me this took out al mizbeach osich beh. There was a permanent fire on the mizbeach. We're talking about the Mizbeach HaNechoshes, the altar that was used for the sacrifices. And there's a law in the Torah of Lo Sichbeh that we're not allowed to extinguish it. So there are a number of ideas here. The Gemara teaches us that the Bayis Rishon, the Bayis Rishon was Malay Nisi. The Bayis Sheni was less. But the Bayis Rishon, the fire on the Mizbeach was in the form of a crouching lion. Aryeh Rovetz. The lion that was crouching, and that's what the fire looked like. Now, the Meforshim all point out that the Ness really began in the Mishkan. Have to begin in the Mishkan. Because in the Mishkan they covered the Mizbeach with the big Desrod. They covered the Mizbeach with the cloth coverings that they used to transport when they had to transport the Mishkan from one station to the other and to rebuild it. So it was covered with these cloth tapestries. Well, if the fire is on and you cover it with cloth, the natural the laws of combustion in the world will have the cloth burn. And yet it did not burn. So this was a miraculous fire. And the Meforshim say it was a fire that didn't burn, except that it burned for the korbanos. But that, so to speak, the Kohanim were not in danger of being incinerated by the fact that there was an Eish Tomid al Mizbeach. And that therefore, that removed any problem of danger that would be involved, because the fire was only for, it only worked, so to speak, for the korbanos. So that's a very difficult idea for us to understand, because by us, fire is fire, and if it burns for this, it burns for everything. But in the Mishkan, that was not true. And apparently it was not true in the Bayis Rishon either. And therefore, the fact that the fire was in the form of a crouching lion is, so to speak, part of that miracle. That this is a special fire, because the ordinary fire, you cannot shape it, cannot make it this form or that form. And here, all of this was part of the eternal miracle that existed in the Beit HaMikdash. So what was the idea of the Eish Tomid? Now there also is, we have in the Torah, that by the menorah there was an Ner Tomid. It was one of the candles that always burned. There's a difference of opinion in the Meforshim, whether that was a ness or whether that was the result of the Kohanim taking care to make sure that there would be enough oil and wick so that it would burn all the time. So was it a miraculous there or not? In Medrash, it seems clear that the Medrash held that it was miraculous, and that the Ner Tamid. So, what was the purpose of the Ner Tamid? The Gemara asks, "V'chila ora utzorich." When the Rebbeinu Shalom needs the lights on, he needs the Ner Tamid. Now, the reason was only it should be edus, should be testimony, shashchina shora b'Yisrael, that amongst the Jewish people in the Beit HaMikdash, the Shechina, with the presence of God, so to speak, was palpable, could be felt. And the example of that was the Ner Tamid. Why wasn't the fire on the Mizbeach the example of that? I mean, if we wanted to say Shashtina Shora b'Yisrael, so the fire on the Mizbeach is a bigger miracle, so to speak, because it's formed, as mentioned, in the form of a crouching lion, and it doesn't burn the cloth. So why isn't that the proof, Shashtina Shora b'Yisrael? So there's a long discussion amongst the Meforshim. There are many different ideas that are expressed. One of the ideas, especially in the Chassidish Sforim, is that the difference between the two permanent fires is that the fire of the candle from the menorah never consumed anything. It never was a fire of destruction, so to speak. Never was a negative fire. That's why the Gemara asked, "V'chila ora utzorich." It was only a fire to give light, to provide testimony, and therefore that's the positive fire that teaches us that the Shechina is Shora b'Yisrael. The fire that was on the Mizbeach, even though it was miraculous, and it's also Kaviyachim from the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and it's all Nisim, and otherwise it couldn't exist, but it was used to consume. The Korbanos were burned on it. And because of that, so it had, so to speak, a negative quality to it as well. The negative quality of fire. The fire itself is this volatile gift. Chazal teach us that Olam Rishon discovered fire on Motzei Shabbos. That's why we make Borei Morei Ohesh Saturday night. And so fire, man can do wonders with it. It's the basic tool for all of the progress of civilization. But fire is the most destructive thing that human beings can do. I mean, high explosives, the shells and everything. I mean, that's only fire. Different form, but it's fire. And because of the fact that it can be easily misused, so that is not the edus, that's not the testimony that the Shechina is Shora b'Yisrael. Because something that can be, and not only can be, all over the history of civilization, has always been used for destructive purposes. So you can't associate, so to speak, godliness with it. Whereas the Ner Tamid on the menorah, which never was used for any purpose except to illuminate, to make it bright, people should see. So that certainly can be used as a testament, She'ashchina Shora b'Yisrael, that the Shechina dwells amongst the Jewish people. We have a memory to the Ner Tamid in all synagogues in the world. In fact, we call it the Ner Tamid. And that's the memory of the Ner Tamid on the menorah. It's not the memory of the Eish Tamid al Mizbeach, which is a different form of fire. So the Mefarshim point out right away that whatever assets or tools that human beings have in this world, people can use them for good and people can use them otherwise. The power of Bechira, of choice, is the power how you're going to use what is given to you. So that's true with wealth. A person, there are many people who have won the lottery and won millions of dollars, and in a year they are bankrupt because they don't know what to do with it. And that's true with all. As a person has great intellect, so that you could use the intellect for evil purposes. Person has education. So what does he do with his education? I've also told you that in the Holocaust, over a third of the commandants of the Nazi death camps had either a medical degree or a PhD, had great education from the greatest universities in Europe. But if it's misused, then it becomes not a blessing, but a curse. So we are always left with this choice, with the Eish Tamid al Mizbeach lo sichbeh. The unfortunately say lo sichbeh never is extinguished, that always could exists. The choice is omnipresent. And the Ner Tamid, the candle, the light of the menorah, that permanent fire, that's to illuminate, and that's to make things more clear and to focus us on the fact that Yesh Shechina b'Yisrael, that the Ribono Shel Olam Kaviyachol dwells with the Jewish people, and therefore we have special mission and special obligations. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Yomer Ratzak HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lezaken Es Yisrael L'ficha Kirva Lahem Torah Mitzvot Shenemar Anoich Hafetz L'man Tzidko Yagdil